Welcome to the Real Estate Finder podcast. I'm Matthew Maschler, real estate broker with the Signature Real Estate Companies here in the great state of Florida. And with me, the co-host of the Real Estate Finder podcast, Stacey Garcia.
Hi.
Hi, Stacey. How are you?
I'm great.
And we also have top real estate agent to the stars and bars, Jill Glanzer. Hi, Jill.
Hey.
Hey. All right.
Hey.
And we have a great guest in the studio tonight. This is somebody that I've known for a very, very long time that I've always wanted to, sit down with and talk to, find out what she did because she provides a great service that I think my customers could appreciate. Some of them might be able to use. And also, I wanted to introduce her to my real estate agents. So I thought, what better way to bring her into the studio, introduce her to you and to you both, and then any of my agents listening to, and anyone in the world who's listening to. I want to introduce you to Sandy Gerstein with, as I blanked on the word, concierge. What's the?
STG, Concierge Moving and Organizing.
STG Concierge. And I was trying to remember what the S was for, but STG, I know it's Sandy Gerstein. So it's STG Moving and Organizing.
Yes.
Those are two very, very different things.
Correct.
All right. So let's talk about moving first. Are you a moving company? You have trucks and movers?
Well, first, I'd like to say thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course.
Great to be here with all of you.
I'm getting right to business.
I appreciate that. Nope. And now we'll get to business.
How long have we been planning on doing this? Years?
Yeah, years.
Years.
Very glad to be here.
All right.
Thank you.
Glad to have you. I'm excited. I was running a little bit late. That's why I was jumping right into.
All good.
And I really want to get to organizing. So that's why I was starting with moving.
Okay. So we are not movers. We are move managers who also go in and do a lot of the hands-on. So anything that has to do with selling a house, buying a house, moving a house, that is not in the real estate agent or broker realm, we handle. We can help the client prepare the property for sale, depersonalize, declutter, anything that has to be home maintenance, right? Because clients always have great intentions and they don't always execute. And then we'll get in there. We can help them purge, pack, oversee the movers, unpack them, make sure the home is completely empty, aside from everything that has to stay with the home. Sometimes in a sale, things have to stay with the home. And the way that we keep everything in check is we create an inventory catalog that we know what goes where. So when they come back and say, what happened to the green lamp? And we say, well, you wanted it shipped to Stacy in Utah, or you wanted that armoire sent to someone else. We can arrange for all that shipping. We can help with appraisals on art, liquidating art, furniture, knickknacks, tchotchkes. And, just like I said, everything that has to do with the moving process.
That is awesome. So obviously you can tell right away why I wanted her on the Real Estate Finder podcast show. Do you think your service is more applicable to my sellers or to my buyers?
Both. We do work with people full gamut from start to finish with the selling process, preparing the home for sale, then getting them moved. But we also, and especially with the influx of people since 2020, we will sometimes just work on the tail end of people moving here, right? They don't have the resources. They might be a young married couple with kids, busy, and just don't have the time to get themselves unpacked and situated.
The moving truck pulled away, and now I have all of these boxes that are labeled, and the label may or may not be correct. And what am I going to do with them?
Right. And it's interesting you said that, because one thing when people pack themselves, they often make the mistake of putting the label on the box or the name of what room it came from.
Right.
And often it's not going to the same room. So we have a whole labeling process when we pack. Sometimes we'll oversee the movers when they're packing the fine china and whatnot. And we label depending where it's going. We'll also work with sellers who are moving out of state. So then we'll make sure all of that is labeled and packed properly and with a manifest. And then when they get to their destination, it's easier for whoever's unpacking them there.
See, this is all the stuff that
I don't want to do.
Right. I expect, there's all the stuff I expect my customers to do.
Yeah.
And maybe I don't even tell them, and maybe I don't follow up with them. But if they're selling a house and they're under contract, and 45 days later we're ready to close, I expected them to do this stuff, and I kind of hope they do. And I always wondered, what if they don't? So it's definitely a good person to introduce you to.
We make sure it gets done. We even have people who will go in and clean the house, wipe out the cabinets, clean. We'll get the trash and things hauled away. We dispose of things ethically, chemicals, wires, computers, things like that. And another...
Oh, because they're moving, but maybe this stuff they don't need anymore.
Or they people collect old computers and old phones and things and whatnot.
Yeah, electronics needs to be disposed of separately
Correct.
to a different place.
Correct.
Jill, I want to know, what are you thinking now?
I was thinking about, you have a lot of stuff. You have a lot of wires and stuff in a drawer. I don't know. That just came to me because...
More on the organizing side.
Yeah, more on the organizing side. Like, where does this go to? Like, do I really still need this? Does this apply? Like, all those things. We wind up moving them at the end, right? Like, we come in, the last part of moving is just the extra stuff. And we're like, oh my God, I'm just going to throw it all in a box and take it with me. When really, you probably don't need it. But you don't want to get rid of it.
But then there's also the give up. The last part of the moving is the give up, right? They're like, all right, I took everything.
The give up.
And the rest of the stuff that's here, I don't want, and I'm just leaving.
And that's not okay when you're selling a house. You're supposed to leave it broom clean. You're supposed to take your stuff.
We have a situation right now where the people moved out and the house, it's like, look at all this stuff. And then you call them and they're like, yeah, we don't want it. And there's cribs and there's baby toys.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And there's beer. My son took the beer.
Oh, that's what you were thinking of, that situation, yeah.
Well, I was thinking that based on what you just said. Right?
Yeah.
But have you ever had a situation where you had a seller and seller's under contract and then either at the walkthrough or a couple days before the closing, you realized that they hadn't done the work?
I actually had a buyer buy a home that was supposed to be furnished. I think it was in Kings Point. Mm-hmm. It was a very good friend of ours. She was so excited to move into this place. It had great furniture. When she walked in, every drawer was full of the person's personal stuff, including their IDs. It was both parents had gone into an assisted living. They passed away eventually, and the kids were selling it. And we were like, why is this all still here?
So the seller's definition of furnished was, you're getting everything.
Yeah, it was all their junk.
You're getting everything that's in this house. We are not taking a thing.
And they needed you to clear that out. They needed your people to help them figure out, disseminate what do I want to keep and what should go.
And that's a big portion of our business, being in the South Florida area, is when people pass away or there's a life-changing episode where they go into assisted living or skilled nursing and the kids are far away, or even if the kids live nearby, they might, exactly. And we work with that. We do an awful lot of that. And it's educating them about what the difference is between furniture and furnishings.
Yeah.
And, and people think as is means I just get to leave everything. And it's like, no, as is kind of means if the microwave doesn't work, the microwave doesn't work. It's not, you can just leave all your stuff everywhere.
And it's like a security risk. Like if they're leaving like papers and IDs, like it's just not something that's good for them personally.
If we can get in there before the house goes on the market, we like to clear out the closets, the personal items, the closets,
to get the house ready to show.
To show, because the first showing, as we all know, is online. So we want it to look the best.
Are you calling that staging, or are you just calling it?
We call it light staging. So we offer light staging. Sometimes we'll remove big pieces of furniture and reshuffle tchotchkes and artwork and things that are there. And part of that could include getting painting done. Right? If there's horrible color walls and, it's kind of lighten it up, make it open and airy. Even just the old tile floors, when you get them, the grout cleaned, it doesn't look like a checkerboard. It's little things like that really make it show better. And from what we're seeing in the market now, houses aren't selling themselves like they did over COVID. And it's like, what could you do with spending a little bit of money to make it look better than the house 3 blocks over that didn't do anything to make it look any better?
It makes a big difference when you declutter. Take out personal photos and that sort of thing.
I wonder if there's a word for it, or if we can create a word for it, because it's a little different in my mind than staging. Like when I hire a stager to come into an empty house and stage it with furniture and cookbooks and pictures and make it, and fake televisions, right? That's one kind of staging. This is like, it's not straightening. It's, so I'm trying to think of at first I was thinking pre-staging, right? If you're going through and throwing out garbage, right? I was thinking pre-staging, but that's not on how I want to think if there isn't a word for this. I don't think if we can create a word,
like trademark a word.
STG.
STG.
Staging. STGing.
Oh, I like that. I like it.
We're not staging, we're STGing. So,
Love it.
yeah, but I could totally picture that as a.
It's definitely needed
Yeah,
because
definitely needed.
I have people all the time, and that's the hardest part. For me, it's the hardest part also personally, but I don't know. I think everybody has this weird attachment, and like I just had to do this with my dad, passed away, and I'm like, what do I keep? I wish somebody impartial could come in and just do it for me.
Yes,
that's
that's
where
you?
we come in.
meets
Correct.
meets Andy.
Yeah.
Correct. I have a team of kind, compassionate women who go in and do that and work one-on-one, and we match people up with the personalities of the client.
That's awesome.
And, it's, as I say, we all have mothers, right? We may not have daughters, but we all, women were daughters, and, mothers and daughters might bump heads. And when you're trying to do that with a parent, it's difficult. Some of them are very attached. And even ourselves, we moved about 5 years ago, and I was going through my daughter's room with her, and I'm like, you're going to throw that away? You're going to throw that away? And she's like, I think you need to leave. I'm like, you know what? You're right, because this is not about me. This is about what you want to keep from your childhood.
Right.
So I was too cllose to it. So
You would be a great person to take on like a second listing appointment, because we have a listing that we're thinking of we're working on. Yeah, and it's a great amazing house. But like, remember when I walked into the first room and there was like all these books, and it wasn't like arranged nicely. It was like going to be her bookshelf, right? But it was like to the side, and then this thing over here. And it's so hard to say, like, you really need to straighten up this room, like the bookshelf you wanted it to be if you're showing it, or take all the books out. That's something
that could
you
be it.
could
We could bring in some banker's boxes, thin it out, hang on to them if they want to take them to the next home, store them in the garage or tuck them away, and we're I don't want to say good cop, bad cop, but it's a little easier for us as a third party. And I always say we want to make it the best for the realtor, because you're the guys tasked with selling the house.
Also, they're going to make more money. They're going to make more
They're
money.
actually going to sell their house quicker and make more money.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That's one of my taglines. And for every dollar spent on this light staging, or whatever the word we come up with, the return is $4.
Oh,
Oh,
Right? So if
interesting.
you spend $100, you get $400 back.
It's interesting. I have two stagers that I use, and I know one, Bridget DeVita. Is it DeVita?
no.
No,
From
Bridget?
from Captiva Designs.
Yeah, I forget her last name now, but it's Bridget.
I have her in my phone as Bridget the Stager, which is why I'm not remembering her real name. But because she's Bridget the Stager
amazing.
in my phone, and she was on a very early episode of the Real Estate Finder podcast, and her line was "Clutter eats equity."
Bridget King.
King.
Yes.
Bridget King at Captiva Designs, shout out.
Yeah.
But clutter eats
true.
equity, and she's a great resource for me. She's a little bit of maybe similar, because it's like do what you have staging, and it's light staging. It's not full rental furniture staging. I have someone else for that.
Right.
That's Gina at
That's Gina Galing.
Gina Galing
at,
can't remember her.
Here,
I'll remember it in a second.
Yeah, but she comes in with a bunch of furniture.
With furniture and stuff.
And props and beautiful.
And that's very different than what.
Yeah, totally.
Yes,
Big
absolutely.
She's
Big
big style.
Big stage.
Big
Style stage.
style
Big
staging.
style staging.
Big style staging, and that's full staging. That's not light staging. That's full staging.
Right.
That's what I would do it with an empty house, and I can't tell you how many times I've done this where I've had showings, and that's where I think that's my view of staging. Right, staging, it doesn't get you showings. Right, staging gets you offers if you're getting showings. If you're not getting showings, right, I don't suggest putting your money into staging, because no one's seeing it.
Right.
Right.
But if you're getting showings and you're not getting offers, besides the price, staging is something that can really help you.
People have a hard time visualizing, which is
Yes.
why they can't see past the clutter
Yes.
and the dark walls and the dirty windows and, your bird cage or the patio with mold and mildew on it. So just like a little power washing could help it. Getting back to the clutter, and the equity whole equation, one of the things that we're really mindful of when you're going for whether it's listing photos or then you're going to start to show the house, if the closets are a mess and the garage is busting at the seams, people walk through and say, if these people can't fit their stuff, how can I fit my stuff?
Right.
So even just going in and organizing the closets and refolding the towels and thinning out the linen closets is a tremendous positive for the people who are going to come. Because when someone comes to see your house, you show them if it's just a friend and a party. But if it's at the real estate tour, they're opening every cabinet and every closet and all your kitchen cabinets.
Yes.
So before we go to the next question, whatever that is, I just want to take a second to just throw out here real quick, like your websites, your socials, how someone can get a hold of you. If they're interested right now and they don't want to wait like 30 minutes for this episode to end, I realize that people want like a Saturday Night Live skit. If you ever watched the short ass movie, people's attention spans are low. So we're going to pause here for you to tell us this.
Absolutely. Thank you. So the website is stgconcierge.com. You can check out the Instagram at STG Concierge, and we're on Facebook as STG Concierge.
STG Concierge, CONCIERGE. So whether it's social or website, STG Concierge.
Correct. You can
Everywhere.
also email concierge at stgconcierge.com.
Now you got to spell concierge twice.
You do. So it CONSIERGE at
No.
CIE.
CONCIERGE
Yes.
at
Yeah.
STG Concierge, spelled the same way, .com. And the phone number is 561-325-9288.
Of course, you could also reach out to Stacy Jill or I, and we can introduce you to Sandy. All right, so we're gonna continue now. Let's shift from our focus, buyers and sellers, and moving and staging. Right? Two completely different things, but very related because they happen at a similar time. What if you're not buying or selling a house?
I was just saying, I in my mind, I wish I had Sandy at my house just in general.
Right.
Because my house is so messy and cluttered and I have so much stuff. And as soon as when I go away, my son comes in and he's very organized and he throws out all the stuff that I just don't want him to throw out, but I don't know what I want to do with it yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to hide it so he won't throw stuff out. And I feel like he's not the enemy. He's actually a mini Sandy.
Uh-huh.
Like he's got good skills. But I wish I had someone before that because I don't really want to throw stuff out. I would donate stuff and I would
Free cycle.
save stuff. Yeah. You know what? I run the website Buy Nothing, Buy Nothing, Sell Nothing on Facebook, the group.
Mhm.
And it's all free cycling. And a lot of times I want to take the time and do the same thing for me, but I never do.
Uh-huh.
And this is something I wish I want to call you and be like, hi, can you come over and just organize stuff?
Sure. Well, I want to hear more about your Facebook group.
Yeah.
One of the things we pride ourselves in is keeping what we can out of the landfills,
Mhm.
Awesome.
ethically disposing of what we can, right? And that helps with the disattachment of things often when you can share that this is going to a good home.
Mhm.
We have a few local nonprofits that we work with that will just give them certain things, women who could use like things like half, when we're clearing someplace out or someone's moving, half used body lotion or shampoo, cleansers. Instead of just throwing them away, they could be used by someone. We'll not do that. We won't do that with something you actually ingest and
Yeah.
Right.
eat food. But if there's unexpired food in the food pantry, that goes to a food pantry as well. So one of the things we do is help people go through, whether it's a pantry the kitchen, a closet, a garage, a storage unit, little by little. And we usually start, somewhere between 4 to 10 hours and then go from there. Sometimes it's just a one-time situation, and sometimes when you get into the flow, people are like, oh, now could we do my kid's closet, or can we do this, or can we do that? And it's, it's moving slowly but not wastefully, and then building that rapport. And, one of my catchphrases is clear space, clear mind. When we go, I offer a complimentary consultation, whether that's video, definitively a phone call. If it's just someone wants a pantry, it may just be a FaceTime or, a Zoom or something. Or if it's a full-fledged moving situation, then it will be in person. And, we just assess what's your hot spot, what bothers you the most, right? And the four of us could see the same house and say, ooh, this has to happen first, but it's really what is bothering the person the most that they want to approach, right? Because something could be bothering you, but it's a little too overwhelming, so we might start someplace else. And the most difficult thing for most people are photos and DVDs and videos and whatnot that we've accumulated, the personal memorabilia. So we often start with that last. We save that.
It's like there's a psychology to it, I'm sure.
Yes.
You can't rush in and just overwhelm somebody. I watch Hoarders all the time, so I know. I feel like the beginning person of Hoarders.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, there's me later.
When I watch that, I clean my house after.
You do?
Yeah.
Me
Makes
too.
me want to clean
Me,
more.
me three.
Drives me crazy.
Do you remember that house that we took that listing out in Long Lake Estates? It was a full-on hoarder situation.
Yes.
He had a tool collection, and it was just in every room of the house. Drills and drill bits and screwdrivers and just tools everywhere. It was like living in a junkyard.
Most people have the same things in their house.
Yeah.
It's just who has more of one thing or the other, right? Everybody has the bag collection.
Right.
Everybody's got a calculator or two.
This fascinates me. This fascinates me because I think of this. I watch things and I see what's in other people's homes, obviously all the time when I look at listings, and I think we all have the same thing, don't we? Isn't it weird? Like maybe it's a generational thing, but I have all my mother's Tupperware and Corningware, right? And then I'm like, do I have too much Corningware? My kids are like, what's Corningware? And then I show them and they're like, we never use that. You should get rid of that. I'm like, I don't think I can.
Right.
Right?
Right. Yeah. And like I said, we do all have the same thing because we're all humans, and right, but it's just varying degrees, and eventually we're all going to be downsizing it.
What percentage of your job is therapist?
So we are not licensed, but we, many times we act as a trusted confidant and a friend, and everything we do
For
and
real.
hear and see is all confidential. We're discreet.
Right.
Some people want to share that they work with an organizer, and some people don't want
It's
anybody to know.
embarrassing. Yeah, I don't
Right.
want
They don't want anybody
right?
to know. Right.
I mean, I'm not embarrassed personally, but when my kids, their friends come over, they're like, oh my God, just ignore the fact that my mom has 20 boxes of her mom's china.
I had-
Like that sort of thing.
I had my wrestling show Sunday, and I invited people over the house to hang out by the pool, because sometimes after the wrestling shows, I hang out in a hotel lobby and I have shows by my pool.
Yeah.
So I made sure to do that, and I didn't tell Wendy, and I had like 8 people over, and like she didn't have time to like straighten up the house. And I was saying before the show started, I got like boxes and bags everywhere. She was so embarrassed she ran away. And my friends aren't small. So when you have stuff everywhere, like sometimes it's hard to work around.
Big wrestling
Yeah.
dudes.
I think that's one of the reasons I like my wrestling career. I've found bigger friends. I look smaller.
It's all relative.
I was going to say it's all perspective, right?
It's all perspective.
It is.
Right.
So, how did you get into this space?
How did I get into this space? So I lived in a studio in Manhattan, and if something didn't have a home, it couldn't be put away, and there wasn't a lot of space, so it had to have a home. That was the first conscious decision, I guess. And then when we were living up in Westchester, my kids were little, and just for the fun of it, I read a book called Organizing from the Inside Out. So picked up some things, and then when we went to move, the mover came and they said, listen, I know it was a corporate move, so you're not paying for the move. I'm going to give you advice. Go through every closet, cabinet, and drawer and get rid of what you don't want. Because even though you're not paying to transport it to Florida, why do you want to bring stuff you don't want into your new house? I thought that was fabulous. I also had enough wherewithal to realize the movers needed to pack us and unpack all the breakables and take that trash away. Not sure how I kind of gleaned that. Then our new neighbor moved in about 6 months later, and she was a professional organizer in DC. Like, what's that? So as my kids got older, I started helping her, head schlepper. I had more freedom of my time. They were in middle school. And she became someone's personal assistant and said, I'm going to keep my website live if you're interested, which I was. I also was on Angie's List and Thumbtack and started networking and whatnot. And
you got the referrals.
Right, kind of grew from there. Grabbed a friend or two to help me who the same thing. They were looking to make a little extra money, and it grew from that. And then over COVID, I rebranded and purposely kind of scaled. I have a great director of operations. Shout out to Angela Samay. And Danielle Genova helps me with follow-up and client relations. And then I have a team of 8 other women who do hands-on and, just kind of grew from that. So in one way, I fell into it, yet in the other, I have a degree in sociology, education, and business. So it kind of combines all of that. Never did get the therapy degree, the social work or a PhD in psychology, but that definitely does come into play. And again, going back to the population that we service a lot with, the seniors, a lot of them are just so starved for conversation and attention. And, so that's an extra added bonus that we can offer them. Getting back to the organizing, something else that we do is we'll help people with their paperwork, right? Paperwork is inundating and the different generations have different amounts of paper. Let's say, right? The younger generations don't have the paper. Probably their computers could need, kind of thinning out also. Yeah. So we'll go in and everything from helping up, set up a filing system to organizing calendars and, just kind of keeping people on task. We have clients that will go in once a week and we take all their, they're probably more like in their 80s, and we'll take all of their appointments and put it onto their phone so that they get the notifications and they realize what they have. Because sometimes you go to a doctor and you need to make an appointment and you don't have your calendar with you.
Right.
So we just kind of
That's so awesome. I'm really impressed.
Yeah, that's amazing how your business grew. It sounds like while you were on the journey, you didn't really realize what you were doing, and then you ended up here, and now you see all the parts, how they were important to get you where you are.
Absolutely. And, we're troubleshooters, project managers, quarterbacks, boots on the ground, all the analogies, cliches, catchphrases. But we're really problem solvers and, try to figure it out, whatever people need.
I really find that as a realtor, the biggest problem people have, and I deal with a lot with people who are moving their parents out or their parents passed away, is getting rid of the stuff. It's really like a huge issue. So it's a great problem that you solve.
Thank you.
It really is.
I wish we would have brought Sandy on a long time ago. I remember why I know your name. It's because people tag you and say on Facebook. When people say, I need somebody help with my parents downsizing or organizing a house, they'll be like, oh, you must call Sandy, and they tag you. Mm-hmm. So I was wondering, I know your name, but I don't know from where. And now I realize, and everybody else underneath it was like, yeah, she's awesome. You're awesome.
I think even before I had the podcast, I was trying to think if I could, like, how do you get like all the agents together and do like an agent breakfast at Brick Sandy Inn? And I've been trying to like figure it out for years. Then with the podcast, every time I see her, I'm like, yeah, we still got to do that thing. So that's why I'm glad I finally did it.
I did the 4 houses for our friend Steve, and he wanted to move away and not have anything to do with it. But then there were 4 more houses after that.
Right.
This would have been ideal because he had to keep coming back, and it prolonged selling.
Yeah.
Right.
Because of that.
It prolongs it. And often
it's exhausting.
It's exhausting. They have to take time off from work, and many times kids, family members are down here through someone's illness and sickness, and then
For them to have to clean the stuff out in addition to taking care of the
It's
person.
too much.
Right.
It's overwhelming.
yeah. And often we'll work with the heirs and say, let's go through, let's see what you want. If there's friends, family, kids, grandkids, let's figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can go back and we can handle everything. And we keep in constant communication with them, email, texting. Like I said, this inventory catalog that is digital that we can email anywhere. They can also get a hard copy of it if they want. Some of the older clients, when they're moving, they need the hard copy of it, which
That's me too.
yeah. And then our team uses that. It's kind of like our Bible and our go-to. And, with technology, I mean, over COVID, we got really good at helping people clear out houses who never even came back to Florida, right? We could just walk around on FaceTime. I mean, we did that with numerous people. Do you want this shirt? Do you want these pants? Do you want these shoes?
Yeah.
Lay out everything from the kitchen all over the cabinets, the counters in the kitchen. What do you want from here? Not 20 pieces of Corning, but you can have 2 pieces of
I
Corning.
get it. But it's funny too because my son asked me, "Mom, do you?" I just told you this, Mom. I was thinking about renting an apartment. He's 19. I was thinking about renting an apartment. Should I look up furnished or unfurnished? And I'm like, unfurnished? Why would you look furnished? And this is for 13 months from now, which is hilarious to me. And he said, because I want to rent an apartment. Why would I get unfurnished? I said, because everyone I know is a real estate agent and we have tons of furniture that nobody wants. And so he said, oh, okay, so it's not a problem. I go, every time I sell a house, I put the furniture in my garage. Do you not see the garage? I have furniture from every house I've sold when I didn't want to throw it out. I didn't know who to give it to, and it was too good to like just randomly do something with. So it's in my garage. Everything's in my garage. So
he's going to pay a lot more for furnished,
right?
I said, unfurnished, you could buy the furniture for the
told him,
amount.
I'm like, every single person I know is always trying to get rid of furniture. Right?
Right.
And so I said, yeah, do not look furnished. Please look unfurnished. But yeah.
So when you have a project, do you charge by the project or is it like by the hour? Or does it change depending on the person?
The majority of time, it's by the hour.
Okay.
We never quite know how long it'll take. That's what the on-site consult is. We're usually pretty good with knowing how long it should take to pack, unpack, manage. The iffy situation is the decluttering and the going through all the personal items. So we'll kind of go with an average amount of time we feel it would take. If the person lingers over everything, it will take longer. And some people, once they get into the groove, they're like, oh my God, just get rid of it.
Right.
Because it's freeing, it's liberating, it
feels good. It feels good.
Correct. So that's all, it's all hourly and client only pays for the hours used. If we think it will be X and it's X minus Y, then they pay X minus Y.
I would imagine you probably have clients that you've been working with for years that just need constant decluttering. Do you have people like that aren't one time, that maybe just over the years just always need help like once a month or?
Correct. Monthly, quarterly.
That's awesome.
Weekly, or just they call 2 years later, or, we keep in communication and it's like, I need a refresher. I need a little pick me up.
Right.
That sort of thing.
I have like daily since 2000.
I'm like, will you marry me?
It's like every day at my house when he's wanting me to work on a pile or organize or declutter.
That's the thing. If you're the type of person that you try on 4 outfits before you decide what you're wearing for the day, what do you do with those outfits? Do you hang them back up, right? It takes a few minutes.
It does.
Do you throw them on a chair, on the floor? That's okay. And then you can either do it once a week, which is still going to take you the 5 minutes.
Same amount of time.
Or maybe you do it once a month.
It's all
like
together.
you said, it still takes the same amount of time. So it's, do you do it slowly? And it either any of those ways are fine. It just depends on your personality. And what I would say, if anyone wants to tackle trying to organize themselves, right, I'd love to help them. But don't say, I'm going to do my closet today. Say, I'm going to do these 2 shelves.
Right.
Or I'm not going to clean my whole bathroom. I'm going to do this drawer, right? 10 to 15 minutes, you don't feel. If you're like, I have to spend the whole weekend going through my closet, it's overwhelming.
Yeah. In June of 2020, I started thinking to myself and saying to people, all that stuff that you were going to do if you ever, when you got a chance or if you had a day, right? Like the shutdown was March of 2020, right? So April, May, June, we were like 3 months in. And it's like, if you've been waiting for, a day or a couple of days to get to X and you haven't done it by now, you're never doing it.
That's right. Like scanning the 40 years of pictures.
Yeah. I have about 150 open items like that. I need another shutdown. I'm not asking for one. I'm not asking for one. But if we ever have one, I'm doing it. I'm getting a do-over.
Right. That's what I say, tongue in cheek. Like a hurricane day wouldn't be so bad.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, we need air conditioning and AC and electricity and
I definitely missed COVID.
Yeah.
I was really productive. I did some amazing gardening that I did amazing organization because I knew I didn't have anywhere to go.
But I dove into work, so I was working overdrive.
Oh, it was crazy.
When everybody, and then
the market was
crazy.
nuts.
Yeah.
Then I look back and I'm like, wait, everybody else took a vacation.
Yeah, I was busy too. It's just the stress part to unwind for me was when you're.
I did
home.
a lot of cooking over COVID.
Oh, me too. A lot of cooking and a lot of eating.
It took me a year to figure out that I can get out of almost anything with, I'm not feeling 100%. I'm going to go get a COVID test. I'm sorry, I just can't meet up with you. So it took me a year to figure that out.
I love COVID because I never wanted anyone to shake my hand before.
No, nobody does.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I don't shake hands. And they're like,
pump.
what's wrong with you? I was like, elbow hump, yeah.
My son was also, but also like in Florida, it was different than the rest of the country. So while like we have family in New Jersey, and I think they were affected more, especially months into it. Like me and my son went to every Miami Dolphins game, and other states, like nobody went to a football game.
Right.
So when he loved it, but when he said it to his cousins and his uncles, it came off very insensitive.
Yeah.
So all right. So wrapping things up, is there any last minute advice? Besides obviously buyers and sellers or people thinking of a move, but also if you're home and you're looking at piles and you're feeling trapped and you're feeling stressed and overwhelmed, and how do I get to it? Sandy's the person to call. Anything you want to add to that?
I think we covered the gamut. And, no project is too small, no project is too big. We're here to help, support. I love people, my team loves people, and, we just like to be there, and from the real estate perspective, we're there to support you guys as well as your clients. And we would love to be an extension of you guys. And, we take your clients, your relationships very seriously and provide the level of service that you would want and need and expect for your clients.
I love that. That's perfect.
That sounds great. I have an idea. I want to invite you back into the studio in 6 months, but I want to give everybody some homework. Right? Stacey and Jill, I just want you to think of either some situations where you could have used Sandy.
I know 1,000 right now.
Right. Just come up with a couple and just think and observe. But Sandy, I want you to come back with a couple of cool stories from the trenches, a real horror story that maybe you came into some situation that was like nothing like you ever seen, and maybe like maybe a horror story and maybe a hero story, like an incredible success story. So if I can give you some homework to think about or take notes on, we can.
In 6 months,
follow up
you're
in 6
going to
months.
come back and tell the story of how you did one of my listings.
Yes.
Because I feel like
Yes.
every person that I talk to has the parents downsizing or the parents pass away. And it's always me that has to go in and get rid of everything.
Oh my goodness, the one across the street from you that I walked into?
Yep.
And
I just
you
thought
have
about that.
better things to do than go through their
You
closets.
shouldn't be doing that, but you wind up
I
doing
do
it
it
because you're
anyway.
just very
Right.
caring
I do it anyway.
and you have that way.
I feel
get
like,
it.
yeah. And also, I also don't know. I feel like I'm going to find this diamond in the rough. Isn't that
It's like a treasure hunt.
I do. I like the treasure hunt part of it.
Like maybe you'll find a diamond.
So true story, one of the first, we'll say borderline hoarders I worked with, Bocalago, I found 2 things. And we talked about how people have the same things in their homes.
do.
People have the same tendencies. So this woman would get her mail every day, put it in a Publix bag, and then a bunch of Publix bags would go in a paper bag,
This is my mother.
and then they would go in suitcases. Okay, so I pulled one out from
mail.
under a bed. I found a $10,000 check,
This happened to me.
and I found her diamond ring. She was divorced, but I found her diamond ring.
Wow.
Stacey's nodding along as if this is perfectly normal.
This happened to me. This exact scenario. My mom got sick, and she didn't pass away, but she got sick. And when we started going through her items, like her financial stuff, we realized that her car was due. It was a lease, and it was due 6 months prior. And she just kept paying for it. She never turned it in. So, and we never really thought about it because my mom was a very successful realtor. So we went to go to empty the car to bring it back, and her entire trunk was full of mail for 6 months. So went to the top. So she would open her mail, not open it. She would take her mail out of the mailbox and put it in her trunk. The trunk was completely full. When we started going through the mail, there were checks in there for $20,000 and $30,000. My mom just didn't open the mail.
Oh my
Like
and
real,
also
like
she
real
was-
estate commissions? and
Real
stuff?
estate commissions. They're all
Oh,
real estate.
wow.
My mom made $80,000 in the trunk that she didn't deposit. And also, she was a retired Pennsylvania teacher. So all her pension checks.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God, all this money was just sitting in her trunk. But the mail was stressful for her and she just couldn't do it.
I worked with a young man who he had some developmental issues and he was not cashing his Social Security checks.
Wow.
And they were just stacks and stacks, and they give you 6 months. So we
Yes,
got him
that's
into
it.
a system of that comes in, and he picked one day a week. That
Yeah.
was when he would go to the bank. You have to do that. You can't leave money it's like throwing the money away.
I wish there was a man that is you and I would marry them and they would come into my world. All I want them to do is everything you do. For real. It's awesome because what you do, I don't do.
Would you let them?
Yeah, I totally would. I'd be like, I'm going out for a drink. When I come back, I want the mail opened and I want you to organize it and deposit stuff and pay
Right.
stuff. Yeah, because now that I know what happened to my mom, like she didn't tell anybody. She was super successful. I didn't know what was going on. Now I feel like it's going to happen to me. So when I go to the mailbox, I deliberately open it right then. And I tell my sons, I'm opening the mail. I'm reading the mail. Like I make a big point of it.
So biggest tip with mail maintenance, when you go to the mailbox, if you flip through and you see the solicitations that don't resonate, that you put them right into recycle,
Right, into
recycle, so
right,
that,
into
that
recycle.
stuff doesn't
Before
end
that
up in
even,
the house.
yeah, so you never get into the house, right? Yeah.
Right.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us.
You're awesome.
STG Concierge, Sandy Gerstein. I'll see you soon at the next Boca Federation event, whatever, all the different events we run into each other at, all the circles we meet in. And Jill and Stacy, see which customers can be helped by
I
Sandy
feel like we'll have
Services.
a contest. I'm on it right now.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Awesome. Well, thank you. It was great to be here with
Yes.
all of
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Future looks bright and the storms pass by. The sky's dark blue and it's almost that time. Light shows, cameras flash when I pass. Living in the moment, forget about the past. They save the best for